You're listening to the VRverse, a virtual reality podcast where two friends talk all things VR. Now, let's join your hosts, the VR Realm and Dr. Oculus.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 38 of the VRverse. This month we've got the usual course, the lovely Dr. Oculus, and we're joined by a special guest, a pioneer of the VR community, Nathie.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Good to have you on. Followed you for a while.
Yeah, I've told this story a million times. I'll tell it very, very briefly. Nathie is basically part of my VR DNA. In that, when I was starting out, I was afraid that I was going to be going into a universe of people that are just going to be like, "You're fat, stupid. Stop doing what you're doing." And instead, what I was greeted with was the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed comments from Nathie, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually a pretty cool thing to keep doing. So all of my fear was completely relieved just by one small comment from this guy, and since then I've never forgotten it.
Nice. Yeah, but you're going way back. You're going way back. Your
That's
name says it all.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, it does. And this isn't even my first form, which is even worse.
Oh.
So yeah.
Wow.
That's the thing. I started out back. DK2 was released, and I got I say released. Fulfilled the Kickstarters, and I started making content. And yeah, that was way back in 2014. So here we are still today.
Oh, your name is legendary.
Mm.
I always wondered why you didn't change it to Doctor. Well, the thing is, we had so many names, so it would have been Doctor Facebook from Oculus, and then Doctor Meta, and now it's like Dr. Meta Quest maybe, and now it's Dr. Meta Horizon. I don't know what the next one is gonna be, but maybe Dr. Meta AI.
He'd have to put XR at the end of his name as well, wouldn't he? Not VR anymore.
Yeah, true. Not well, mixed reality apparently. If it's
Oh,
in
yeah, sorry,
Meta's
MR,
realm,
wasn't it?
but
Yeah, MR,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just never gonna happen. Never gonna happen at all. I refuse. I'm sticking with this. I don't know. If I get a cease and desist from Zuckerberg saying don't use Oculus because I want it back, then fair enough. Until then,
I don't know. Do they still own the name? I think so, right? For a while, but at some point it will become available, which is interesting.
Mm.
hopefully it lapses and I steal it,
Yeah, you should buy it.
right? Because I can afford that.
I know before we came by, we were talking about when I first met and I said it was Among Us, but it actually wasn't. It was Neos when the face tracker come out. It was me, you, and Mike in the face tracker world.
Oh wow! Yeah, we jumped in randomly, I think, and then someone showed up, like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" It was like a. I think we were one of the first to like jump in outside of the bubble.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, that's been a while. I didn't really follow this whole like fallout that happened with this whole social thing. I do know for a fact it's like it's a different platform now, right?
Yeah, Resonate. No, or Resonate.
Oh yeah, Resonant. Yeah. That's the second. Yeah. Okay.
I think the fallout around that was the one of the CEOs apart from Fructious was basically pumping crypto into it and making a crypto out of it, and then
Oh yeah.
the online become like everyone who's just buying into the crypto, and then it went all a bit messy, and they were like,
Oh wow.
he wanted it out, he wanted to keep it in, so they went through a big fallout. And then
Interesting. Okay. Well, that explains something.
Yeah,
I never did. Like everybody seems to lumber VR in with crypto, and they're like, "Oh yeah, tell me about this crypto." I'm like, I don't know. Fake money makes money on the internet. I don't know.
I'm surprised how like that was a few years ago. You know, with the NFTs, that how well the VR community blended with NFTs. Like they were suddenly everywhere, and then they were also showing up in certain discords on Reddit. And for some reason same with AI in a way, it's the same thing. Like my feed on different platforms is AI, VR or XR, mixed real, whatever you want to call it nowadays, and then robots. So it's those three things, right?
Mhm.
So there's always something that gets injected into the medium, and yeah, cryptos are a part of that too. I think the predecessor of that was like buying land.
I play the odd mobile game every now and again, and the adverts I keep getting is I bought this sandwich because I bought the land that the sandwich shop is on, and now I'm getting virtual land adverts again. I'm afraid it's coming back. I'm scared,
Okay.
but hopefully.
Yeah. Some people like to invest, in stuff like that. So yeah.
Sure. I mean, the thing is one of those things many, 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 many years ago. I was like, oh, yeah, I could mine for Bitcoin, but I'm not going to waste my time doing that. It's pointless. Who wants this fake money? I feel like an idiot now because if I did, I could have been a millionaire. So it could be the next Bitcoin, but it could also be a massive waste of your time.
Yeah.
Fancy it or don't.
It's a little gamble. Some people are completely down for that.
Yeah. And
I always say, like,
sometimes pays off.
if you do it, then do it with money that you can miss. Like some people invest because they need to pay the rent next month, which is a
Yeah.
very bad idea. Or other things where it's like, oh, but my car, I cannot drive a car if I don't win the jackpot again this month, and yeah, it's not the smartest way to go.
No, but then celebrities are the worst for that kind of thing because I listen to a lot of autobiographies, and they're all just like, I had nothing to my name, and I packed everything up, and I moved out and into the city, and then obviously they've got an autobiography because they are somebody now, and a lot of
Yeah.
their stories seem to contain the same themes, and I don't know if that's something designed to just keep us all dreaming and hoping, or if that is genuinely the way to do it. So maybe the person that's just like car, virtual land, okay, virtual land, maybe that's this is not financial advice. People, do not listen to us, or definitely not me. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Keep your car.
The funny things I find with those adverts, though, it's like, well, the autobiographies with that, it's like, I had no money, I had nothing, so I moved to like the most expensive part of America to pursue a career. And you're like, well, how did you survive when you got there?
That's the part they don't tell you about.
Mm.
That's where you're selling your body to businessmen to eat sushi off of you and things. But anyway, sorry, I distracted us with virtual land and I don't even know how we got here, to be honest. I couldn't trace it back. What's everybody been doing for the last month or so? I mean, well, Paul for the month. Nathie, what you been up to lately?
Yeah, so basically it's the start of New Year, so it's always a bit slow. But so I'm mostly just watching like trends of like what's going on, what's going to be the next. Actually, like I think the most interesting thing that I've been following is this how I wouldn't call it a fallout, but this whole like the gaming scene on Quest is like struggling in some ways, but then in others it doesn't. And it's almost like I'm seeing a certain like panic in some ways, but in others being very confident about where we're going with this. I'm kind of referring to this memo that got leaked by Meta in December, where they said, "Hey, this is the moment. This year needs to be the moment we can prove that VR, or now they call it mixed reality, is the thing, and otherwise we might move on to other. Maybe that's Meta AI. Maybe that's the glasses, but it seems like they're kind of. I'm not saying done innovating with this whole thing, but they're at the point where it's like, okay, we just don't have more time, money, or confidence or patience left to go on for another. Well, we used to always be like, oh, here's this like here are a couple of new games, here's new hardware. Let's go into the B2B market with the Pro. We saw a lot of new things, and now it seems like everything is kind of going back to its roots, and now it needs to show that it's gonna work. So that's the thing that I've been kind of following on socials, where, as I said, some developers are closing down, others are struggling. There are also great examples of ones that are doing really well. So yeah, it's almost like I'm seeing VR gaming leave the back door a little bit, and social and free to play is kind of making its way in.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up a little bit later because it is, like you say, we see many developers struggling and setting people the firing people, basically. They're letting people go, they're making them redundant and whatnot. And then you see there was a thing that Meta announced recently. They were going to inject, was it 50 billion into Quest gaming or something like that? The number could be wrong, it could be a million, but the point is they were going to pour a lot of money into VR. But then the thing is, when you look at that, you think, well, okay, they're doing this, but all of that's actually going into Horizon, not Beat Games and Sansaru. They're not making games like that. They're just expanding Horizon.
I mean, there's still a lot of money getting pumped into like VR gaming in general, but like the thing is, like Beat Games, for example, it's a bit strange. At one point they got bought, then they pushed out a lot of new, DLC content, a lot of like great partnerships with big labels, which have improved the game significantly. Also custom, environments that fit the album that you're diving into. But things like mixed reality not being, present in Beat Saber, which I find very surprising. And now we're at a point where, yeah, they bought some studios, but no one really knows what they're up to or what they're really, pushing. You also have like, was it what's their name from Onward? Is it like Pour Down Interactive?
Downpour Interactive.
Downpart, yeah. So those guys as well, like what's going on with that? So I don't really know.
Wait, didn't they just announce an alpha or something for a new game? But it's essentially just Onward again.
Well, as far as I'm aware, that game, I think it's called Tier 1, is from the developers who left the studio and made a new game.
Right.
So, which didn't go so well, but that's another story. So yeah, there are still people there. I do know that the CEO, or who used to be the CEO, is now doing something completely else. You see a lot of those studios who get bought, then the CEOs, they leave and they start something they actually wanted to do for real. Say with like a guy from Beat Games who's now making soda, which is, I'm sure he always wanted to do that to begin with, So yeah, I don't know. I just like, I don't really know what's going on. I'm just like looking from afar, seeing where this is going. I like, same with like Horizon. I'm not really against Horizon. Some people might think that I am, but I'm not. I mean, I've been in there before, and I see it actually growing and growing and growing. It's very popular. It's a bit like Rec Room in a way, where you build a community, and the moment they're hooked and they start building worlds themselves, that's like the start of a very successful platform. But then you have to keep people engaged. Like the problem you see with Rec Room, it's like a lot of people also left. So how can you keep doing that for the long run? So yeah, Horizon is very popular. I'm sure there are people who don't want to say that, but it is. It's just that you need to jump in and you'll find out. Especially now it's on mobile. It's super accessible, right?
I saw that the other day. Yeah, I was flicking through the Meta app, and it was like, jump in. I was like, oh, so I do this and it's going to launch it on my headset. No, I was literally in their pressure washer world. on my
Pressure washer
phone,
world.
which all right, yeah, pressure washer loosely, because it's basically a paintball game that you are shooting dirt off of a car. So it's
Yeah.
not so much pressure washer world, but it's a start. And like you say, it's definitely got a market and free stuff. You know, get them young. Fortnite is sadly incredibly popular, and so that's a model that everybody kind of wants to try and emulate, which is for us, it's like, yeah, no, we want the high quality stuff that we pay money for. We have the disposable income, but the kid that's got the Quest 3S for Christmas or whatever, they want the free Rocket League, they want the Fortnite, they want all of those kinds of things. Gorilla Tag, I suppose, is probably the better example. That's what they want from a headset, which is yeah, it's a business at the end of the day, sadly. But what I'm hoping is, well, no, I don't hope all of the big studios disappear, but what will happen is the people that are making VR games for money realize that they're not getting the money and they disappear, and then we end up back in like the old DK2 days where everybody was innovating because they had no money, they had no big studio behind them, and all of a sudden we get back to the people that are making the games for the passion of making VR games. And I do sometimes miss those days.
Yeah, but that's something that I don't think that's gonna come back unless you have. Sometimes you have exceptions, like with Apple Vision, for example. It's a pro model. It's made for developers to build. So if you have one, then you can enjoy that same vibe of DK1, DK2, where no one really has access to it, or people are still in denial that it's going to be a success. Well, it's the same with DK1, DK2. It's like, what are you going to do with it? You can only run around in a Unity project, and you can only walk around with a controller. Like, why would I even? So, but you know, Quest is like a well-established platform now. There is not that much room for going completely well and upload anything you want. It needs to be in a certain trend. Same with Gorilla Tag. Now you have what is it? Animal Company, which is like a Lethal Company clone in a way, but it's still using the same mechanics as Gorilla Tag. So you make something new, but you know it's in a certain genre, so you know it's gonna succeed. So it's too much of a risk to really do that. You know, to have this kind of Oculus share mindset where you just upload anything you want and just kind of get away with it as well. I think now you see developers making things that they used to, you know, like Max Mustard, you know, that's also a passion project in a way where, you know, they wanted to make that. They thought like, hey, and it's a great game, but they wanted to make it. But the audience in general, if you want to, you know, go for the bigger crowd, then you had to make something else, sadly, which then means that you have to maybe do something that you're not really on board with, but you need to meet somewhere in the middle then. Or you have, as you said, like enough budget to kind of, you know, put out a Max Muster and then put another, you know, but then not many have that, you know, freedom to really put that out and lose on it.
I think there's another big issue affecting Meta, and I spoke to a number of devs about it with Horizon, and that's obviously that's what they want to succeed. So you're now getting your Quest feed is all Horizon. There's no like pushing games anymore. So like developers are hidden behind, or this is a good Horizon world, this is a good, and you're like, well, where's the actual games showing on the store? You have to physically go and search for games now, which a lot of people discover games by not searching, oh, that looks alright, but now it's all Horizon.
Yeah.
And I think
yeah, they're like, you have two stores now, right? It's like the main store is the Horizon feed, and then the actual store is like hidden in the corner. Well, they are saying they're gonna improve it, but I feel like they're saying something, but they're going a complete different route while saying it, and they know it. I'm sure they know it because the numbers for them, as I said, like Horizon is doing really well, and it's only getting better and better. I'm surprised they didn't decide to just kind of make another app on the side, because the what used to be the Quest app is now becoming a standalone game, which is Horizon, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it looks that way, and that's why they keep it that way. But I'm like, okay, then, you know, create another app, which is like the companion app for Quest. Keep it very simple, games, settings, and that's it. And then leave it in there. But I don't know, maybe they have the hopes that people will branch out to their products as well after they played the mobile games on Horizon. They're like, oh wait, there's more to it. I can also buy a Quest, because if you log into the app and you don't have a Quest, but you do play Horizon and you keep clicking on things, then at some point will say, hey, you also want to buy Ray-Ban glasses? Do you also want to buy, you see what I mean? So maybe they see a certain return where people go from Horizon then. But I think most kids, if they play mobile, then why I don't think you need a Quest to enjoy Horizon, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
You can just
Yeah,
do
no,
without.
absolutely. It's I look at Roblox. How many people do you see that were, would play Roblox and be like, oh, I wish I had a VR headset so I could do this in VR?
Yeah.
My
No.
nephews, they've got an iPad on one side with Roblox on, and then they're playing that between games of Fortnite on the Nintendo. They don't care. And there's
No.
literally a Quest 2 in the other room where they could be playing Roblox, but they have no interest.
But I think Meta found out that it just go like they can get more retention. They can get more players if they kind of leave VR in the corner and just kind of move on to mobile, which is a much easier platform to tap into. It's like Rec Room is a great example, right? Rec Room started as a VR only game, and then when they started opening the floodgates to mobile and Switch and Xbox, you start to see more players that were just not having a headset walking around. So
Yeah.
I think the tactic isn't so bad. As I just said, like just kind of split it off to I don't know, but maybe they don't really care. Like what I'm saying is, like, I think they still need Quest on the app in a way to make the mobile adventure happen, because otherwise they would have already split it off by now, you know. But for some reason they can't, or they don't, because there's some incentive there.
So this actually, I've been down like 18 different avenues we've been talking, but one of them is, so we've just had the 2-year anniversary of the PSVR 2 that we've been weathering for the last few years, and at this point in time you kind of get the impression that Sony were like, oh, we made it PC compatible so the PC market can deal with it because we don't care anymore. And it does make me wonder with Meta saying, oh, we're just going to start developing this operating system and anybody can make headsets. Is this Meta slowly backing away from the headset market so they can just start making Horizon and just raking all the money from all of the Horizon sales and other people basically making the hardware while they just live in the software world?
I mean, we're talking about a company who has that as a baseline, but I still think they want to have a hand in the hardware too. It's the same with like the Ray-Bans. But saying they step away without saying they step away in a certain way, or trying to bend certain corners now so they can go their direction, that's definitely happening. Because also did Sony say, or PlayStation say on social media, hey, here's the new adapter, because we're not going to make games anymore. So you can go to Steam and you can play them there and we don't have to bother anymore. That's not what they said, but that's what the hardware definitely
feels that way.
answered that. And also, you see what I mean? But they would never say it. Although, with Meta, it's a different story. I mean, they didn't give up on the hardware. They just want to steer it to another direction and make it multi-platform. So it's not just, hey, I want to play this game with my Quest, but because maybe this trend is also going to go further than just Horizon. What if you can play Beat Saber on your iPad as well? I know Beat Saber is a bad example because let's say you could use an Xbox controller to play it, right? And like, oh, this just that's what I'm saying. It could be that they're like, oh, this is a great incentive because VR itself is not enough to carry that.
It certainly could. It's all a business at the end of the day, and there's a lot of it we don't know, or at least I certainly don't. I don't know about what's going on in their back pocket, but So we were at Connect, and did you feel like the big thing Meta were all about realistically was the Orion and the Ray-Bans more than anything else?
Yeah, but that's been for years now. Every Connect you can kind of see VR disappearing more and more into the background, or at least gaming, I would say. That's a thing that they don't really find very interesting or important. It's like a lot of people get confused about that because, of course, they bought a company, they bought a VR gaming company, and now they're finally able to have a springboard and go to the next level.
Yeah.
But of course, the consumer is still like in this. Oh, but I bought a Quest, I bought this. Although, like, most of the people from back in the days are not around anymore, because if you saw the latest numbers, like, most people who bought a Quest 3 and 3S were people who did not own a Quest 2 before. So it's not like people jumped from one headset to the other. Maybe when the DK2 went to Rift and Rift went to Rift S, although people are already doubting that one, then you kind of lose, but then you win a bigger audience in the long run, is what we have seen. But I don't know what the next step is going to be. If they make a Quest 4, then what audience is going to be on that one? Is it the audience that they were now able to hook on 3 and 3S, or is it going to be, I don't know. But yeah, I would like, even Disconnect, I wouldn't expect them to be like, hey, here are another 5 games, and wow, we did this with Quest. I mean, they showed Quest last time, right? But it was just like, okay, here's Quest by. Okay, let's move on to AI now. Let's go to the big boy stuff.
Yeah, I don't. I wonder if maybe the next what the next one's got to be a Pro, right? Like, we've got the 3S and the 3, which is kind of the higher end version of the 3S, but is it going to be the Pro 2, do you think, or do you think they're just not even going to announce one this year? Because they've announced the days.
Yeah, but they have announced, we have seen multiple reports of them working on another Pro model, and then they canceled it again, and they made another one. They definitely want to get something Apple has. They also kind of want to get their hands on. I mean, they used it. They have seen the Vision OS, and are like, "Whoa, this is amazing." Of course, they didn't say that on camera. They're like, "Oh,
I was going to say,
it's
yeah,
okay.
how much
It's okay. It's
behind the
okay."
scenes, because
Yeah.
publicly they're like, oh yeah, this isn't a threat to us. If anything, this is worse, and we're a fraction of the price. And you're like, yeah, no, you definitely want some of that, don't you, Zucky boy? Yes.
Especially since now the Quest is like almost a hybrid of Vision Pro in the way it works and the features it has. So, but that's just, of course, it's a business tactic. You're never gonna say, hey, but that's the funny thing about Vision, right? It hasn't sold much. It hasn't really tapped into the market that much yet, but it's already the best thing people have ever tried in the realm of well, they call it a spatial computer, but VR headset, AR headset, mixed reality headset. It's just, the software is the killer feature, which is great.
Every time I see you on social, like, if anything is going to make me buy a Vision Pro, it's you. Because I'm scrolling through Instagram, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get this and get it out my fridge, and then you've got like the physical and like the content you do in the Vision Pro. I sit there and I look at my credit card, and I'm like, that's clear. And the Vision Pro is available in the UK now. I'm like, but I know, for me, I'm not that deep into the Apple universe that I'm going to get its true value. I don't think, anyway. Like, I don't have. I've literally got an iPhone, and that's it.
Well, as I said, it's a dev kit.
Watch.
It's a dev kit. So if you like, I own one, not because I'm a developer. I own one to show, to document what's here right now. So I like, when I post those things, then I get a lot of these arguments of people saying like, oh, but is that the only thing it can do? It's too expensive to do that one thing you showed, which, I mean, you can have a great discussion about, but I'm not uploading these videos to my socials to prove that this thing is relevant or anything. I just show what it does. Right? That's it. I don't try to sell you one. But that for some reason people feel it's the same with Quest. Like people are constantly asking me at the moment, why is this man using a Quest 3S instead of a Quest 3?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just grabbed the headset that is here right now on my couch, and if the Quest 3 is nearby, I'll grab that one instead. And I don't really care, but for some reason people think that, the coverage I do is based on like personal preference, which is not the case at all. If there is a fun app coming out, as you said, like I can now go cloud gaming on my Vision Pro, which works really well. I'll do it later on Quest, and it works differently, which is fine.
Yeah.
But even then, people are like, why would I have to buy a Quest to play cloud games because I got this big monitor or I got this big TV? I'm like, yeah, do whatever. If you think that's great, fine. I'm not trying to sell it to you.
No.
You know?
See, you say about cloud gaming. I do genuinely think that's going to be the next Xbox. The next Xbox is essentially going to be a Quest-based cloud gaming headset. That's
Well,
what.
honestly, it's funny you mention this because I honestly think that if you see how much VR is struggling right now and how many people are still not interested in getting into VR because they don't want to be the character, they don't want to be physically walking around, they just want to relax, play a game after work without being, I mean, you're still immersed, but you just have it on a giant screen. And I think there are many more people who would be interested in that than playing a VR game and I mean, this may be highly controversial, but having that power of, putting your screen anywhere you want and make it as large as you like and just play games anywhere is great, especially if the next Quest would be more targeted towards that and you can actually download the games and put it on the headset. That's what the Vision Pro can do. You can play, for example, Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is like an Unreal Engine game. It just runs on headset. So I'm not streaming it, I just run it on the headset. So what if the Quest could run PS3, PS4 games, right? It becomes like a PS Vita in a way. I honestly think it's a great market. And then you can like take out a lot of hardware because you don't need it for other, you could make a 3DOF Quest and just have people sit on their couch, have a very cheap headset again, like the Go. It's just a Go.
That's it. I swear that's the next Xbox. It is going to be that. It is going to be a Quest-like headset running Meta OS. And then it's going to play Android games, Android apps. It's going to come with a gamepad rather than, motion track controllers. And it's just going to be a way of playing Xbox with a screen glued to your face.
No, I totally agree. I think that's like, it's funny that most of my time of me playing games nowadays is on a giant screen inside a headset. And I'm playing more flat games in VR than I play VR games on a headset because it feels like second nature. It feels like easier to kind of get back into my headset because of that than to be like, oh, should I play Metro today? Or it's just that the mainstream flat gaming scene has so many great titles in a more consistent pace that I just keep coming back for that instead of having to figure out in the VR world if the next game I'm going to buy is actually good or not. It's such a roller coaster of like quality versus no quality versus, it's just very same with like tier 1. I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks really sick. This looks really sick. And then I see this review from Gamertag. I'm like, okay, and never mind. And you only launch a game once. So even if they would say, hey, we updated, it's better now. I'm like, yeah, but you need to have a certain standard at launch. If you don't, people forget about your game, they move on to the next one.
Yeah, I've been into tier 1 twice and there's nobody online in the servers, and you're just like, normally a new game has a week boost where like it's busy for a week then disappears. But I said the worrying thing about it was Kickstarter, so even the people who backed it aren't even playing it. Within in the first week,
spent like $250, right? He spent like $250 on like backing the game. But what I'm saying is that if you just play a flat game that you enjoy, like yeah, I don't know. Like some people do like to go for example, like flat to VR. Like for
Mhm.
example, you could play Bioshock flat to VR, but
Mhm.
I still enjoy Bioshock more when I'm playing it on a flat screen, on a giant screen. OLED,
Yeah.
4K, whatever. Great,
Mhm.
but I don't feel the same about having to inject it with like VR, and then it's just it wasn't developed to be that. you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, everyone has different ways to play games. But I do think as you said, like flat gaming inside a headset is something that isn't getting much attention, isn't getting invested into much. Well, Quest has Xbox Game Pass,
Mhm.
and now
Yeah.
GeForce
I
Now, funny enough, has Xbox
mm,
Game Pass built into that service. So you don't even need Xbox Game Pass anymore. You can now launch all your games from Epic Games, from Xbox, from Steam, from Battle.net, all in one place.
Mhm.
What else do you
yeah.
want? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's I don't like I say, I hope there is a future, but like you, I literally so Beardo Benjo,
Yeah.
I met up with him the other weekend because he said that I have this Pimax crystal and I'm never going to use it. And he got word that I've been looking at buying one on eBay. I have a million different headsets, and it's becoming a real issue. So yeah, I went down and met him, and he gave me this Pimax, and I'll be honest, I'm actually quite shocked and pleased with it. I've never seen Half-Life Alyx look so good, and it runs way better than I thought it would on my pokey little 3080 graphics card. But then Sunday came around, and I was just like, I just want to play some Diablo with a wife. But now I've got the clarity. Do you know, I'm going to try and play Diablo in the Pimax, and I was just sat here, just a screen as big as the wall in front of me, just playing Diablo. And that's like, why am I doing this? Why am I not playing anything? And yeah, it is a really it is a great use case for the headset, sadly,
Mhm.
which I don't know whether that's driven to from lack of content. I'm looking through your website, Paul, and the last month or so it's been what, Cold VR and Ash and Arrows that you've
Mhm.
played?
Yeah, realize sing the well-being singing app. That's what it.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
I've I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
karaoke app basically, with no leaderboards on lists. It's meant to just be go in and sing and chill yourself out basically, and annoy your neighbours.
Hmm.
That's.
Did any of that float your boat? Like, did any of that? I see you gave Cold an 81
Yeah.
from an email I received from Herb Games. But has anything really kind of grabbed you over the last month or so?
Well, I went back and played Alien Isolation again. I played it on the Quest and it was terrible.
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
Alien Isolation?
Not Isolation, sorry.
The
Rogue
Oh,
Incursion, sorry. That's the one.
Rogue
Yeah.
Incursion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Apparently they're fixing it
see,
with patches.
Isolation native on the Quest. That would actually be pretty dope with
It is.
like a mother mod kind of situation.
Yeah, it is. It
Or
is.
yeah, Rogue Incursion. I think they released to the smaller markets first. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of obvious.
Oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. It was a bit strange in general.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed to nail the Quest version. I feel like Servios are going to be the next ones just putting out that announcement due to the situation with Alien and its lack of success on the Quest. We're going to have to start letting people go. Like I
Okay.
can just see that coming.
I don't know how many reviews does it have. I mean, I usually like look at the reviews. I know it's not the best benchmark, but you can always kind of have a good look at how many people actually left a review. Yeah, if you look at the platform now and what's getting played the most, free to play, Gorilla Tag, that stuff, then yeah, I don't. It's one of those games that it took a while for it to get out, and now it's here, and we already moved on to a total different.
Mm-hmm.
Like the platform looks completely different, and also Servios had already some problems in the past, right? When they launched the Walking Dead game, And then Skydance came with theirs, which they completely underestimated on their end. Even
Mhm.
that, funny enough, Servios had like more rights to the IP. I mean, they had Rick in
Yeah.
there, right? They had all these characters, Daryl
And
in
all
there. You had his
cast,
crossbow, and
voices, yeah.
yeah. So he had more theming around it, and the game wasn't very good. But they were on a streak of like putting new games out, and they were all kind of like arcadey, but good enough. Like
Yeah.
Westworld is one of my favorites that they
Mhm.
made. It's also a very like it's a hidden gem that almost no one even knows it came out in the
Mhm.
first place. But you know, story wise, which usually lacks, was great. But yeah, as you said, like with Alien, I think there's not much room left to be like, hey, but we'll put out another game. That's why the part one, part two thing
Mhm.
also happened. I think they just kind of split off their development time. I'm
Yeah.
sure they wanted to go for a full game, and then halfway they're like, "Oh, this quest is taking ages. This is too difficult. The whole room is on fire. The headset is melting. So let's just kind of like cut it somewhere where it makes sense, and no one is going to suspect that this was actually there was more to it." Because
Mm.
for me, it was like I kind of know that's what happened, even that I don't have any evidence, because the moment I got to that point, I was like, this ending scene doesn't make any sense, first of all, from a
Mm.
story perspective. Even that you already played for like because this game seems to never end. It's very long, but also because the xenomorphs keep spawning, and it's just you can never enjoy your surroundings. You can never get scared actually, because they keep coming all the time. Like for for an alien game, I didn't really get scared of this one. Like Isolation, I was like, you know, terrified. But this one was like, oh,
Yeah.
here's another xenomorph. Okay, let's wait a minute. Okay, and they're back. Let's shoot him again, and then solve the puzzle. It was like this annoying, almost like extra thing. But what I'm saying is that they slapped the part one on it, and then they just they didn't put it on the on the store page and
Mhm.
everything, which they did later. But I think they did that
Mhm.
because people got the promise also in the description that it was a full game. It never mentioned part
Yeah.
one or um, and also if you look at like if you play the game in terms of how many weapons you unlock, it's not that much for a full part one game.
Mm.
It's just there's not
Yeah.
much progression in terms of what you get. So I'm sure there was more, but I think if they did release it with that part as well, I think it would have gotten too repetitive.
Yeah.
Like this game ends just at the right moment where you almost like, now I'm getting bored of this. I've seen the same level 3 times now. End it. So at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but
That was
at some
one.
point it's like, oh, here we go again. I'm in the same level. This is the third time. This is a crime.
That's like one of my biggest gripes when I reviewed it on the PC. I was just like, it's like the put stuff at the opposite end of the base. Every time you know you need to collect something, you know you're going to walk to one end and go back to the other end. And I don't know whether it was just a way for them to easily extend the playtime, because it would have been pretty short if you didn't have all this backtracking from end to end of this
Yeah,
base.
Yeah.
I've got a long history of basically saying that's all they ever do. If you look at their games, what you've got raw data. You go down an elevator. It's a wave-based shooter of robots. Late game, you go into a slightly different area, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. Creed, you go into the gym, you play 4 or 5 minute games, you go into the ring, you punch them, rinse and repeat. Battle Wake, you go out, you fight 3-4 different bosses in the ships, rinse and repeat. Walking Dead, you have small storyline bits, and then you go and do 1 of 4 different mini games, rinse and repeat. They have a history of that's exactly what they make. They make arcade games, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
They essentially make something designed to be played in an actual VR arcade. For 20 minutes, you get your 10 quid's worth, whatever it costs in arcades these days. And that's it.
But that's what they always did. They made always 2 versions of a game. You could play The Walking Dead at an arcade, which was a completely different version, but same mechanics, same. So
Mhm.
they always made 2 versions of that game, and which was a great business. They could sell Creed as like a licensed thing, but then have people at home also play it. I don't think they did that with Alien though, but
No.
but yeah, it's
Yeah.
very interesting to see that we finally get like the Alien IP, but it's for almost such a like no offense like boomer generation that the people who use this headset they don't care about Alien. They never watched
No.
it. They don't even know what they are. They may have seen a xenomorph come out of a skibidi toilet, and that's why they know what an alien is. But that's about it, right? Yeah, and then they don't play it. Like you can't expect, even if the game would be amazing, there's no incentive for that generation to buy this game. Even I didn't grow up with Alien. But for me, it's kind of like, oh, I watched them later, and I kind of like this, retro vibe, and I like the, grainy effects and the music, and it's great. But I totally understand why even my generation wouldn't buy this game necessarily. You need to have a certain curiosity to it to be like, hey, I'll give it a try. Same with Alien Isolation. I just bought it, and then I thought it was an amazing stealth game. But I didn't know half of the stuff that happened in that game. I was like, this is scary AF. Super disturbing. So yeah, but it's a shame because it's almost like these IPs come out too late, right? This game could have come out in 2018, 19 maybe, and it would have been a big success. But now,
Oh, definitely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, like you say, now in 2024, 25, the world is a very different place. We've sat in our houses for long periods of time. We've consumed everything, and now the world has a 6-second attention span where we don't sit and play games for long periods. Or the older generation that have been playing games since they were 4 and they had 3 colors on the screen, they want to play games for 10 hours. But the modern age want to spawn and die and rinse and repeat, and that's kind of it. I don't see anybody caring about story in the younger generation. Their attention spans are way too smaller for that kind of thing. They'll do it for 10 hours, but they don't want to play a long story. I'm never going to understand the I need to wake up and play Fortnite mentality. I'm never going to understand it. It's not for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. Like when I grew up, I play a lot of like free to play shooters. And then we met up on TeamSpeak like every evening and then just playing rounds together of like 10, 20 minutes. And yeah, like some people enjoy that. Like not every gamer is the same where they all enjoy online, where they all enjoy tabletop and it's the same with VR. But with VR, the problem is it's such a niche market that if you're a huge fan of tabletop, you're not getting a Demio every year or 5 different ones in different genres. That's just not happening. So with Alien as well, if you're a horror fan, then yeah, you might have liked it. I don't know, or maybe you were expecting something way scarier. It's just it's just a different vibe,
Yeah, I think you did hit on a point in the sense of the frequency of the aliens. One of the things that Alien Isolation did is they built up the tension by making the interaction with the xenomorph not as frequent, and they built it up with freaky little moments where vents would break and things like that. Whereas in the VR game, you literally just I genuinely thought I could kill them and then I would be done and that area would be clear for a while, but they just kept coming and coming and coming to the point where it stops being an event and they are literally just goombas to squish.
Well, the thing is, like, the difference between that game, like, that's a stealth game. This game is, like, this VR version is not a stealth game, although it kind of hints towards being stealth because you have these big areas where you can hide behind all these things. I did try to hide, which doesn't work. No. But you're playing as a colonial marine, which is a different character, different, you know how to kill them. But then again, you still have like, okay, how can we build up? How can we make this interesting? But yeah, if you keep making xenomorph spawn every minute, and it also took them a while to kill you, because I remember speedrunning through certain parts of the game where these xenomorphs, they made them in a way where they have to jump onto everything.
Mm.
So they can't walk straight to you. No, they have to get on the wall. So you could just sit there, and it took them ages. So the moment you get caught by surprise, they would still need another 10 seconds to, in their computer brains, be like, okay, now I need to jump on the crate first, then I do this, and then I do that, and then I'll attack. Well, if they just made it like, okay, it just skips it just runs at you, and it just grabs you from behind, then it would be very scary, But this game, I mean, you could put it on a harder difficulty, but the only thing that would change is that they became bigger bullet sponges than before. But you could always run away from them. So you could just run in circles. Like I don't know if you guys got to the point where, you are supposed to die.
Yeah.
I just ran around for like 20 minutes, and I just kept running around. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And then I died. It's like, oh, it's part of the game. But that just says enough about the how smart this AI is. And you're just breaking the scene of them having to kill you within seconds because they're with like 5 or something, and you just kind of outrun the AI. And
You
break
could
the
do that in
suspense.
Westworld though, as well, right? I vaguely remember the guy who was walking after you in Westworld, and I constantly just kept running away from him, and I'm like, surely something's supposed to happen right now. And then eventually I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to run.
No,
And that
but
was the thing.
but that's bad. That's bad game design. If you then find out like, oh, I was supposed to die. Like for example, Resident Evil does that very well. A Village. You have that point where you're supposed to survive a certain wave, and it goes on for long enough where you finally get into that cutscene with like this big man with this, what is it, axe or something,
hammer or whatever it is. Yeah.
right? It makes you doubt a little bit. It's like, okay, is this part of the game? What's going on? But it's long enough where your brain's like, oh wow, I made it.
Yeah.
And with Alien, it's like you just break the game to a certain degree. You're like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. So it kind of takes you out of the experience.
Yeah,
But anyways, that's just Alien. I don't know.
The first time I got to that point where you're supposed to die, I was just running around. I was like, I ran out of ammo now. What am I meant to do? Because I was like you, I was running and shooting them.
Yeah.
And then more will come in. I was like, I ran out of ammo now. What do I do? And then I died.
Yeah, what do I do?
I woke up and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I could have just let the first one get me, and it would have been over. Rather than me getting bored with running around looking for ammo.
Yeah, it's interesting. But as you said, like I do expect something happening with Servios where it's like, or they have to shrink down or something. You can't tell me that this game sold very well. It's just, I don't think that happened. I mean, I didn't check on the reviews on Quest, but as I said, looking at the environment now that we're in, and on one side you could say like, but that's not good for the industry, because then another company who wanted to, let's say, make the next Alien sees like, oh yeah, there goes there goes the sales, they're not good enough, so let's not bother. Which is a shame. But yeah, I don't know. It's a roller coaster, man. Like VR is like sometimes has its ups and downs. Sometimes you get like 5 new games, big AAA-esque games, and then other moments you only get Batman Arkham Shadow, which is great. Amazing game. But you used to get like 5 of those in a year. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if you had like Batman now, I mean, like if someone made it without the funding of Meta, you wouldn't be able to get your return, right? So
I think it was like I know, like you said, Vertigo come out about the sales of Metro not being good. But then you look at it, you're like, we had Metro, Batman, and Alien within like each month. People are going to pick the one game they want to buy out of those 3. Not everyone's going to go, oh, I can buy all 3 of them. Like, they have to pick and choose. And
yeah, but that's always like around Christmas time, they're so desperate to sell hardware that they just slap the games onto the box of the hardware, or at least on the marketing, to kind of make it happen. And that's the weakness VR has, where the rest of the year nothing really comes out unless you have a accidental delay. Like for example, Wanderer, I think they were also aiming for Christmas or something. So because of that, you're now like, oh wait, this game is almost coming out, and I'm super excited because there's nothing else to focus on at that moment. So sometimes delaying things is great. But yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, with Metro, it's like, you completely get drowned into other games. Although I don't think that's the reason why it didn't necessarily sell well. I just think same with Alien. It's like, I mean, Metro, I'm a huge fan of as a franchise, but most people are not super familiar with that. And maybe also because the war has been going on, some people are put off by playing a game with like a Russian vibe to it. Maybe, I don't know, but it just didn't hit. And I just think that most people are like, Metro. What is Metro? I've never heard of it.
I think going like for a prequel for one of the later characters as well made sense for fans of the series who know that character. But
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's funny that with VR games you always have like side characters. Same with like Horizon. Where it's like, oh, I'm not playing as Aloy. I'm just playing as this, side. It's always like playing on save because they don't want if it doesn't succeed, then it didn't hurt the franchise
Yeah.
because it's just another NPC who went on an adventure. We can forget about the NPC who went on a VR adventure.
Yeah, speak about.
I think it's good they included it though. Like you can't like to put it in the world of Horizon and then just not have anything to do with Aloy. That would have been a massive mistake. But I wanted more from that too. It's not a lot massively floats my boat these days. I like the smaller stuff that kind of surprises you, because the big stuff you're like, oh yeah, I've played 2 hours of Metro. I've not felt the need to go back to it. I have still to this day not felt the need to even consider buying the Behemoth. I don't know, it's just something about it just doesn't make me say I definitely need that in my life.
But it's almost like you it almost sounds like you have an expectation that you need to feel more for the stuff that comes out.
You see, this is it. Like, what kind of raises your needle at this point? We've been in VR for a decade plus at this point, and we've seen it all. And the other day, like, I don't want to speak negatively of it because I've not tried it, and I know you have, Paul. But Ash and Arrows, they're like, oh, play Ash and Arrows. And I was like, is it 2016? What do I want with a bow and arrow wave-based shooter right now? I don't know what it's going to take to move my needle, but it's not that.
Yeah, but it also depends on when you stepped in. Like some people are like they've been around for a while. You have people who started playing VR games 3 years ago, so they start at a different level. I played bow games where you could only shoot an apple. And that was it. You couldn't really do anything else. And then you got all these wave-based shooters, like these wave-based like bow and arrow games coming out in what was it, like 2016 or 17, and you had like wave-based shooters with like guns and then shooting zombies and dinosaurs and whatever. So there are all these eras, but I do agree. I saw like this discussion on Reddit about this where people do see that if you're that it does, the magic does wear off. And then it's all about like how much do you love the medium. And there are people there are people who say like, oh, I play I can't go back to flat gaming anymore. I can only play VR games now. Like if I see Diablo, as you said, on my TV, I can't play that anymore. Which is like the pinnacle of someone who says like, but most people who have owned a headset for a while, they do still play flat games. They're not always in their headset. Which shows that it's more like see it as an extra, a thing that you can have on the side. For me nowadays, my Quest is like, as I said, a gaming console for playing games on a giant screen, playing a few titles here and there that actually put me inside VR. And then I have my Vision Pro for the entertainment side of things, for work. But it all leads back to having big screens in front of me and not necessarily having to be in the world and being eaten by aliens and by other monsters. For me, it doesn't necessarily need to be that, I don't need to. For me, immersion is not about that anymore. I used to, but just like you, I can't. Sometimes I'm just not excited to play more of it, but others do, which is fine. I think it's great.
Yeah,
but
absolutely, yeah. I've had an epiphany while I've been sat here, because I've been feeling really bad for the last couple of months because I feel as if I've lost my joy for the medium, for VR. But then as I've sat here and I've gone through and seen what people have been playing over the last couple of months, you've helped me realize that it's not me. It is literally just we're in a little bit of a lull right now, and that's okay. That's fine. We can be in that lull. It's okay. And now we'll be here when it picks back up again.
But there are many lulls, but there are not only lulls in just how much content gets put out, but it's also lulls in terms of like the direction where things are going.
Yeah.
And if you're open, like I got bored too at some point. I got a complete bore out, and then the Vision Pro came out, and I put it on, and at first like, okay, but this is the first headset that's not a gaming headset. So what are we going to do with this now? And then I found I was like, I don't even need gaming necessarily to enjoy. And then for me, it sparked my like imagination again to a whole new level, where it's like, whoa, so I can now be in a World War II documentary. I can walk around and do this, do like fitness with Kung Fu Panda. and the what if experience from Marvel, where it's not about the gameplay, it's about the story, and actually getting a first look into the new season of What If before it even comes out on Disney Plus.
So you're doing it again. You're making me look at my credit card, think I kind of want one of these things.
No,
well,
but if you, yeah.
One of the big things I always liked was the 3D of stuff, and it drives me insane that the Disney Plus app on the Vision Pro will allow me to watch 3D films, and I can't do it on any other platform. I'm like, why? Let me watch these movies in 3D. You have them, so why not let me do this? But
it's just like a different focus, like I think if Meta put more money into making, like they used to, had like a Prime app and a Netflix app, and some of them are still around. Well, the Netflix apps got deleted because it was so old that you couldn't even push a certain resolution, and you still had like Oculus Quest controllers in there, the black ones. So but yeah, that's the thing I found interesting, where Disney Plus put an app on the Vision, not because it's necessarily gonna attract a big audience, but it was more a showcase of like, we'll show you the future of entertainment. If you want to be on the Avengers Tower and just sit there, that's fine. And if there would be a bigger audience, you know what they're going to do? They're like, oh, there's a new season coming out from Loki. So here's a new environment. And it already has some Easter eggs in there that is going to tell you more about the next show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stuff. I think if you put more time and effort into doing that, same with like the Kung Fu Panda thing. It was an ad for the movie. But it was a fitness experience. And it actually looked at your moves and gave you a rating at the end. And then you could watch the trailer in 3D if you wanted to. But yeah, that stuff, I think those are great showcases, and they kind of ignite my interest into the medium again, but not in the way it used to, not where, oh, I need to have this game in VR. I don't necessarily have to have that all the time. I think they need to kind of branch out some more, where it's like most gamers who do enjoy VR titles, they also watch movies. They also play flat games. So give those apps, put them on there.
There's one thing that blows my mind is with the PlayStation VR 2, you can play their games with the VR headset on, but you're just in a black space. Why not give you something if you subscribe to Premium Plus, you get access to Sony Pictures. Why does it not play 3D movies off Sony Pictures? Like, there's all these avenues that are just completely ignored, and to focus on the gaming with that headset. And I'm thinking, it was there in the PlayStation VR 1. You could watch 3D movies. Like, why is it not in this one?
I don't know why those things have been completely abandoned. I mean, the Oculus Go, for example, kind of kicked that off, where you suddenly had Netflix and you had all these, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. But yeah, like even Oculus Go had an environment where you could meet up and then watch movies in there, like you can now on Quest with YouTube VR. But then you could invite someone and change your living room and kind of make it your own. Now you just stand there and you look at YouTube VR, and the characters just like, you just stand next to each other, like there's nothing else to do, because in the middle of every room there is no seating, there's nothing there. It's just this blank space, because maybe that's still from the room scale era, and we're transitioning to other environments. But yeah, that's what I like about the Vision Pro, where all those things that you're missing, you kind of get, but then there's not really an audience yet to use it. But it's still like Disney Plus on Vision is like marvelous. It's amazing. It's epic. Not only because of the 3D effect that you have, but also the environments. The fact that you can say like, hey, I want to sit all the way in the back. I want to sit in the middle. I want to sit there. There's no multiplayer, which of course you then miss because you want to have your friends come over too.
Sure.
But the fact that Disney Plus updates this app every month and it just works, it's already a luxury, is what I'm saying. It's just that I wish you had more of those. And the funny thing is, what you're saying is like, you saw me post stuff and people constantly ask like, oh, but can I do this on Quest as well? Even with the new iPhone that launched. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the same iPhone again and it looks the same and blah, blah, blah. Cool. But you can bring it into your space and then look at it. And people are like, yeah, whatever. But then there are always a few people who say, oh, but can I do this on Quest? And then I'm like, you can't. You can't go into the browser, click on it, and then slap it onto your table and be like, hey, here's my iPhone. So there is definitely like an interest from Quest users to have a Best Buy app, to have an app where you can buy like digital art and put it on your wall. They're definitely there. It's just that, I mean, Meta tried to kind of do it with augments, right? Where they kind of try to kick it off a little bit. But for a company who wanted this to be a mixed reality headset, to put so much focus on the Quest 3 with the cameras and everything and taking other things out, this thing doesn't really do much besides, hey, I'm in the, like, you have a lot of mixed reality experience, like Shattered. It's a great title. But besides that, it's not like, hey, let me decorate my room. Let me, as you said, like go into the Prime app and watch movies there. There's not much there. It's very basic. I don't know. Maybe it's just a sleeper. Who knows?
I would love because like essentially what you're saying, like you could literally grab your Quest. When you put it on, all of the augments that you've got are there, and that is your Quest home. And then you launch a game and they all disappear, or you know, you go into the VR world or the MR world and they vanish and become something else. That would be fantastic, but it's not something that they're bothered about doing, I guess. Or
they did it. They did it halfway. Capable? I mean, if you they did it. They did it halfway, because if you're in an environment, you always see that floating rocket, right, in your room. Or in your environment, sorry. Like you have this floating rocket on a pedestal and you launch it to first contact. Yeah, you have like the mirror.
Oh yeah, you do.
You have you have these pedestals.
Yeah.
And that was the start of like getting augments in there. Yeah, it's something that after a while you don't even notice that it's there anymore.
I was like,
but
really?
it's there. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then when you click on it,
I don't remember this.
When you click on it, you launch into the game, and I think that's what they wanted to have, where you had these. But what people underestimate is that if you do make that and you make it in a good way, then it's very easy for people who don't have an experience with headsets at all to get into it. That's why every time I demo my Vision Pro to someone, they just like usually with a Quest, like, oh no, you need to click on this button. No, not that one. Not that one. And then it goes, they launch it to something they shouldn't be launching into, or they close something, or the room scale area is gone. I don't know, things go wrong all the time. But then with Vision Pro, you just sit there and you blink with your eyes. 5 minutes later, I'm watching a movie and I'm the screen is around me and I'm floating this, and I'm like, because the software is like so well integrated with all these mixed reality features or spatial, which then, so, but I don't know, maybe that's not important. I don't know.
And even Windows MR did it, didn't it? Windows mixed reality headsets, if you went in that Windows world, you could, when you download an app off there, give you a model you could put on your shelf and go click on it and say, I want to play that game. And that was a long time ago. True.
I guess it's the priorities. I'm still not entirely sure what they are. I'm sure they know. But the more I think about it, I have become more obsessed with a Steam Deck and the X-Real Airs or the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. I am more interested in just lightweight, easily transported wearables.
Yeah.
At the minute, that seems to really sort of drag me in more than anything else. Playing, like you said, big screen. You put the X-Real Airs on, plug them into a Steam Deck, bang, it just works. You've got a massive screen in front of you. And then one of the things with the Steam Deck, I always find I'm doing this with my arms bent and it's held up. With the extra layers, you just put your arms naturally and you're just using the controller on the Steam Deck and just staring at the ceiling, playing on a gigantic screen. And I think that's currently where I'm at. I'm just in a lazy, I want to play on the bed and play Vampire Survivors on my roof.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're just like transitioning to the next. I wouldn't say next level because then it makes it sound like VR is not important anymore. It's just that you have almost like a different piece of hardware now that exists next to it. It's kind of like that transition from VR to AR, and then in the middle you have that bridge of different hardware that you can use to do those things, which I think is fine. It's just like I also when I'm on my socials, people are always fighting about the fact that someone likes something else. So for me, it's kind of like, if you enjoy PlayStation VR 2, sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you like Apple Vision, fine. Of
Mhm.
course, you have discussions about, oh, I wish this app, like for example Disney Plus, would be amazing on the Quest. I totally
Yep.
agree. I understand why it's not on there and why it's on the Vision instead. But then still, I do want everyone to have the thing. Like, people don't always understand that if they keep fighting it, like the market is so niche that the fact they fight over it makes it even more niche than it already
Yeah,
is.
they're just gonna fragment out, and they're gonna. People put a lot of time and money and their identity into brands and particular things, and I think that's where they end up in these situations where they're like, PSVR is the only way forward. Why would I spend thousands on a gaming PC when I can just spend 500 on a PlayStation? And it's a perfectly valid argument. And I am fortunate enough, or that way minded, that I'm just like, I'm just gonna get both, and I don't care. But it's I can understand people really leaning into the platforms, but we should all. I'm still in the old way where it's like there's room for everybody. It's totally fine. We can.
Yeah, but it's easier to have that perspective because you own all those headsets. Like, all these people who are fighting over each other is because they saved up money to buy this one headset, and they're kind of stuck with it, and they
Yeah.
have their own friends there, they have their own, and they all, like, it's interesting that every platform has a different type of gamer on there.
Yeah.
Like, the Quest audience is completely different, even from reviewing a game. If they review an Alien game, the reviews are a total different vibe than the ones you see on another platform. But yeah, I don't know, like, it's a shame, but I that's just a part of the the business. But yeah, same with like the celebration of PlayStation VR 2. You have people saying like, oh, they didn't post about it, but I already knew it was dead. And those people who say that, they don't have one, because the people who had one, they
Yeah.
would never say that. Why would you kind of downplay your own investment that you made, right? And then I was like, yeah,
It's
maybe they forgot about it and they will post about it on Monday. And then you're like, why would you say that? But that's because they still, like, they still have hope that this platform will be more than, because they've seen things come out, or they've seen things happen which spark this interest again of them using the platform. And then you of course also have people who did own the headset, were like, okay, maybe this is my moment to kind of, or completely leave VR behind, or go to another platform. You have all these different, and those people, all those different thought processes are trying to understand what's going on, right? And it's,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I can imagine. I can remember someone on my Twitter saying, "Oh, they maybe announce it on Monday, so it's not like a weekend." And then
Yeah.
and then Monday they celebrated the 15th anniversary of Heavy Rain, and like, oh my god, you remembered Heavy Rain, but not the VSVR 2. And you're just like, oh god.
Like, it could have, like, I looked at this and I wanted to because I posted this marketing material that they used from the first anniversary, or the
Yeah,
second
with the
anniversary from the
Borderlands,
PSVR
yeah.
1. But I wanted to already post that on Saturday when they had to celebrate. But then, yeah, because someone made that comment of like, maybe they forgot about it. Not because I believe that, because I know how this business works. You don't forget about it. They already have everything
No.
set up beforehand, and then it goes live. You know, they're like, people forget that the PlayStation account or the Meta account is not like someone typing out a message and then posting it. No, it's already been done a month ahead
been
of
scheduled
time.
a long
Yeah,
time
yeah,
ago.
yeah. So it's not like you really forget about it. But I was like, okay, let me just wait until Monday and see if that's really true or not. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, maybe it still happens after I posted it, because you could also be like, oh, let's do some damage control. Like, you see this guy, like, oh wait, it's birthday. Okay, let's quickly craft something. But I mean, for PlayStation in general, like, that's just such a small part of the pie that even if they didn't post about it and they kind of hurt their community's feelings with that, it doesn't really have an impact on the business. It just doesn't, sadly.
We'll truly know that the PSVR, if it had made it, because you see the arguments on the internet all the time, and like the hashtag of 60 FPS, you know, like 60 F, what you on about? And then it's all of the PlayStation fanboys being like, we're gonna get this game in 60 FPS and you don't, Xbox. And we would know if the PlayStation was actually significant when they actually start rubbing the fact that they have a VR version of something in the Xbox gamers' faces, and you just never see that. You never see them rubbing it in. So at that point, you're like, yeah, PlayStation and its fan base is we are the ones that care, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. But the thing is, like, with PlayStation VR 2, even that, it has been struggling and it has not been really getting the support from PlayStation that people wanted to. It still showed that it has, or had, it kind of depends on how you look at it, potential, because even you know, it was it Max Mustard, like, it sold really well, and it showed that even that Quest was transitioning into free to play, that the amount of people who still own a PSVR 2 and actually spend money on games was really high, which is a very it's almost like a stable platform. Maybe not enough to tell a developer like, oh, I'm gonna make another big game and I'm gonna put it on there, but enough to say like, hey, but these people who do own it are very dedicated. And with Quest, it's just a bit of it, as you said, like, you know, your nephews, one moment they want to play on Quest, and the next moment they already forgot about it and they're on their mobile. Well, on PlayStation VR 2, it's an adult audience. They buy more, they spend more. But yeah, no one is really using that because you could grow that. But I think it's already too late now to do that. After the adapter came out, I was okay, that's it. That's the final goodbye from them. And of course, developers can bring out new games. That's fine. You know, it's still there. But for me, yeah, that was definitely like the most, like, this is just the sign of like, okay, here you go. It's nice because you could also just lock it down and be like, hey, we brick the whole thing and we don't do anything with it anymore. I think that gave it some extra incentive to, because I think this thing is going to be around for a long time because you can hook it to a PC. So when let's say the platform closes down, it's like we stop supporting it, because let's say the PlayStation 5 gets no support anymore, which is going to be frigging, I don't know how many years, but you could still plug in the headset and use it as a PC VR thing. So, but yeah, that was definitely like a subtle way to like, okay, you know what, we're out. Here's your thing.
Enjoy.
You know, it's a great little gift. Yeah, it's a shame, because I think that if Quest doesn't get more games, as we already see now, because it's becoming more social, more lifestyle, that who's gonna pick up that torch? Is there still room for a successful VR gaming platform in this realm? Or because if Meta doesn't do it anymore, then who does? You know, we used to always say, oh, Amazon is gonna join in and we're gonna, but I think we're now at the point where you say like, oh, let's just bring Xbox Game Pass to the X-Real glasses, and not really, oh, let's make a VR game of Halo, you know, let's just bring Halo Infinite to the X-Real glass on a flat screen, and that's enough.
It's interesting you mention about who's going to pick up that mantle. So there's been a few clips floating around over the last few weeks, and there's been the odd tweet of a guy, you may remember him, used to be in the VR space, called Palmer Lucky. He knocked out a little bit of a headset a little while ago and then kind of disappeared for reasons that nobody ever really seemed to admit. But yeah, so a little while ago, Blair Renault the D is silent. The lo-fi technolust guy said that VR is dying and it's, we need people to chime in. And Palmer Luckey said on a response to that tweet, I'm not out yet. Wait to see what I've got coming in a few weeks. Now, that was about a month ago. But then on the podcast, the Sean Radley, he did a show. Sean Riley, that was it. Sean Riley show. He did a 4-hour interview, which it's insane because when you listen to it, it's like 98% Palmer and then 2% of the guy being like, "Wow," just for 4 hours. And during that, Palmer once again mentions there's a lot of stuff that if you are like interested in his story and things like that, he mentions about how he was starting Oculus and he had offers from Sony, and Sony were very realistically close to a VR headset before he released his headset and things like that, and he knew that his time was coming, which is why he had to sell to Zuckerberg, because Zuckerberg promised a 10-year $10 billion a year sort of deal, and he would help him move his drive forward. So he talks about all of that, but then I guess the interviewer's former military, and naturally Palmer current military. He's just got the contract for the augmented reality headset gubbins for the military from Microsoft. Microsoft are essentially disbanding the HoloLens, and they're just handing it all over to him. But all the way through this, he keeps talking about different things, up to and including a VR headset that he talks about. Do you remember the Tesla robots?
Yeah.
The recent thing, and they were making drinks and talking to people, and he's like, I hate to burst everybody's bubble. They're not robots. They are literally somebody in a headset on the other side of wherever they are, and you were interacting with human beings via a link, and they were controlling these robots. And that's technology that we have now. So Palmer is using a VR headset in Arundel's current form. And so between him saying that, and on the show, he does also say that he's not out, and he's looking at announcing something very soon, but it's all very cloak and dagger and very, very quiet. Do you think Palmer's... Well, there's a couple of things. You might have to imagine there was a non-compete with Facebook, right?
Well, at first he wasn't allowed to make a new headset, so that's why he's also doing this, because at first he was allowed to really do anything anymore, which is a smart deal from the Zuck, because you
don't want the guy who
I'm a bit confused though, because I saw this like thread on X, and then he said, hey, I'm still wait until you see what I'm working on, which suggests, because this was a discussion about consumer VR. So we are like, okay, but then a lot of people already knew he was also working on a military-based headset or AR glasses, which then were announced, right? But now you're saying he's talking again about another one that he, because it's already been weeks. It's already been weeks.
But if you look at it this way, so Palmer signed the deal with Facebook in March 2014. He was released from Facebook in March 2017. Now, we don't know about the exact details of a non-compete, but if he signed and then created the non-compete at that point, it's very possible that is going to expire in the next few weeks. Or if when he left...
Yeah, but
this is what I'm saying.
It already expired a while back. Yeah,
he knows that March has a somewhat significant date to him, and he's going to announce a thing in the next couple of weeks. This is what I'm wondering.
I don't know. Like, I know, like, he also made this retro mod, right? This
the mod retro
mod retro
chromatic.
Yeah, this
It's just
handheld.
basically he's remade the Game Boy for a more durable and modern era with modern components and
Yeah,
all of the modern sensors of a Game Boy.
yeah.
Mod
But
Retro was technically his first business.
that shows that he can, in fact, make hardware and then also software. It's just that, like, on one side, I do hope he's gonna, as you said, make a headset too, in the line of Quest in a way. But then, yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing is, if this guy tries to elevate the gaming scene again, maybe he's the one who's gonna pull it off if he still believes in it too. You don't know what changed in the meanwhile. Maybe he's also a bit on the like Apple side of things. There's like, okay, how are we gonna get Netflix in there and Disney Plus but maybe gaming. I don't know. I mean, we know Valve is also, maybe he's collabing with Valve. I know that Valve, back in the DK1 days, you had like this Kickstarter trailer where Gabe Newell said, like, we really believe in what he's doing. But yeah, he's been saying this for a long time, and recently when he hinted towards it, there was a military headset. So I don't know if there's another one. I mean, it could be like, it could be a copy of that military thing, but then a different spin-off of that. I don't know if the military likes to have a copy of their own used by consumers, but I mean, he can build the hardware. That's not the question. He can build the hardware. It's just that I'm just wondering, how are you going to pull off a platform? I mean, you can already see with Meta, they pour like billions in it, and it just doesn't really, the VR gaming thing doesn't really go. I mean, it hits a certain ceiling, I would say.
Yes, yeah, but this is it's a very good point, and that comes up during the 4 hours. A lot comes up during the 4 hours, but they were talking about the likes of the way he's always kind of felt about these things is that he hates when the military have their own stuff and the modern consumer cannot buy it. Like, he hates the fact he has apparently a vast quantity, an arsenal that could arm a country worth of guns, and he hates that there is military versions of guns that he as a consumer cannot buy. And he says that basically his plan is for the military stuff is to keep the AI stuff for the military that they're using to say, right, okay, there's 3 people in this area and they're going to build just a massive triangle of information and instantly share it in the drop of a hat. That's all going for the military. But he's basically talking about stripping out certain parts of it so the consumer can buy it, which then makes me think, okay, is there a headset that is like $3,000 to the military with all of the AI gubbins? But you take that out and it becomes a consumer headset, which you have to imagine he's been keeping his eye on modern developments of technologies and the cameras and refresh rates and all the other fun things that he's been sat there with a wish list of a headset, and he kind of has a couple of billion ways of making it happen now. So I would like to think, if for no other reason than for his own pure enjoyment, he has got the world's best VR headset in his possession. And maybe there's part of him that wants to share.
Could be. I mean, he likes to share, but it's like, it's just not concrete, which is the thing. I haven't seen something being put onto his head. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. But yeah, I do think he's gonna do an attempt at least. I don't know if he's gonna go big. Maybe he's like, okay, let's just kind of keep it small and kind of, But I don't know. I definitely think he will, because he I mean, he created everything. The stuff that we have today is partly because of the man. So
yeah,
I think
but he's full of ideas.
I think it's all got
if
to
it's a
mess
modern
with,
Virtual Boy, I'll cry.
I think you've got to start on meet it with expectations. I mean, how many years have we been talking about how the decade's going to come out and change everything, and
yeah,
that's still not
true. And then when it does come out, what is it gonna do? That's the whole thing. So yeah, like, people want new hard, and how many people want that as well? Like, how many people are asking for a certain headset, right? It's a bit like, it reminds me of when everyone was like, oh, we need a competitor, and then ByteDance made a headset,
Mm-hmm.
and then it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because you still need to have exclusives, you need to have a platform, and you need to maintain it for years and years and years. I think Steam VR is still pretty solid, but there's not much getting released on it anymore because you don't make any money there. So yeah, you make a Deckard for the Microsoft Flight Simulator guys, for the people who play Assetto. I would buy it because I want to play some new games, and not just, hey, here's Half-Life Gordon, and because that's kind of what happened to my index when I got it. I played Half-Life Alyx. I played the hands demo from Cloud Hat, which was fun. But then after a while, I didn't really use it anymore because there was nothing new really came out. You had Vertigo, but you can just count on one hand what came out that was really big.
Yeah.
It was more for the people who already had their VR chats, already had their, but for the persons that, for the people who wanted to buy it to a new platform with, they didn't promise content, but it would have been nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So that for me, Deckard is like, okay, great. I'll get it. I'll try it. I'll review it. But I am skeptical about if content is going to get made for it. Maybe that doesn't need to be the purpose. Valve doesn't sell things because they need to make a profit. That's why it's so frustrating to have an index and then play Half-Life Alyx. You're like, okay, and what are you gonna do now? Yeah, we don't care. We just made something. Okay, but what are you gonna do next? Yeah, well, we don't here play this because we wanted to show what's possible. Yeah, but what are you gonna make next? Yeah, that wasn't our goal. It's just to show what's possible. That's what they did, which makes your mind just go in limbo. And you're like, but I want more. I want different games. Make Left 4 Dead, like make a 4-player multiplayer Left 4 Dead game in VR. I was like, no, but that wasn't our goal. We just wanted to turn Half-Life into a masterpiece.
Did you know Counter-Strike exists? Like, yeah, but what about VR? Yeah, but Counter-Strike, that makes us a lot of money, I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. And they don't. I'm gonna keep stating this because I think it's just that incredibly dumb, and I would also hate to see Bradley's face if it's true. But Deckard is Steam Deck AR'd. So it's an augmented reality version of the Steam Deck. That's what it is. It's not a VR headset. It's an AR version of the Steam Deck. And that's all it is. And so I honestly, if it wasn't for Bradley, I wouldn't even know or care of its existence. Like I would just assume Steam have stopped, Valve have stopped. So
yeah, but if that's the thing that comes out, then it's going to be amazing. As we said before, like playing on a giant screen and just like having a Steam Link Steam Deck on your head, that's great.
Yeah.
But if they also wanted to do VR, it's going to get a lot more expensive. So let's say they just go for that one thing it can do. It's going to be a really nice price. It's going to be very cheap. It's going to be easy for people to pick up. But if they again go back to, but people also need to play VR chat, they also need to play, then the price goes up again. So I'm kind of hoping that they just strip it down, because you're not gonna launch any new Steam VR games.
No.
It's just if you do want that feature, it's just gonna be more expensive. I think it's just a shame to cater to that small audience who still does play those things, but not go, or they need to sell two, you sell one as like a 3 DOF Deckard, and then here's another 6 DOF one for, but then you, I don't know. I mean, then you would sell it maybe for the VR chat audience, but I don't know who else is really making the incentive worth it for them to, I just want it to be cheap. That's what I'm saying. I want everyone to be able to put it onto their heads and then just play their Steam games in it. And not having to play VR games. And if they can, then maybe you need to VR cloud gaming needs to be more of a thing. But I just always think that if someone made another Oculus Go in that Deckard style, it's gonna succeed way more than if you make it a VR headset that runs Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah. The Steam Deck X-Trail glasses, that is the perfect combination because none of the weight is anywhere near your face.
Yeah.
So it's so incredibly
Right?
comfortable that you can do it for hours.
Yeah. So it
And then
comes with a
all of the
nice controller.
computing,
Yeah.
it's got a controller, and all the computing is done wherever you put your hands, which is absolutely perfect. I think Valve, if you think about their history, so they did like the Steam box, where they were going to make small, affordable console versions of PCs.
Yeah. The
PCs as
alien, what
well.
is it?
That's
The
what
Alien Machine?
yeah,
Alien Machine? What was it?
exactly.
Yeah.
So they had a motivation because they were doing something different than nobody had done, and it died a death. Then they had the Steam Link, which was
Yeah.
essentially like cloud gaming, except you were the host, and they tinkered with that, and then it disappeared and died a death. And then they had the Index, which is a VR headset, but unlike all the others, it had the awesome audio. It had a refresh rate that we've never seen functional on a headset before, and it had hand tracking controllers. So they had new hardware to be like, look, this is a thing of the future, and we're doing it now. It's going to cost you $1,000, but this is a thing. And so then they did the Steam Deck, which is the Nintendo Switch, but it's a PC in your hands. So it's like they're looking at the future and making that become a thing. So at this point in time, the next VR headset from Steam, what's the new hardware? What's the future that they're going to bring to us if they're going to make another headset? I don't know what the next leap for VR is. We've got eye tracking in our Quest Pro and our PlayStations. We've got hand tracking, body tracking is available in the Quest to an extent. What's the next thing? Controlling it with our brain, and you don't need controllers? What would drive Steam out of retirement of hardware to release to us?
I don't know. Like as I said, this company just works in a different way. You know, it doesn't. It wants to innovate. It wants to try things that haven't been done before, or things that they think they can do better, but not necessarily. You know, well, for example, when Meta makes the Quest 4, they're really thinking about, okay, how can we sell millions? How can we keep the retention up? I think with Valve, it's total different strategy, different vibe, different. You know, they don't. So it's hard to predict. But I think the idea of having some sort of like, or X-Real glasses hooking up to a Steam Deck, or some sort of Oculus Go that just streams games from your PC to the headset, and then maybe its own cloud gaming service, and maybe in collaboration with Nvidia, I don't know, or they make their own. I think their own, like the next step for the Steam platform would become, you know, becoming like a cloud gaming service for a part. So because right now, like GeForce Now is like a bridge between you and Steam, but Steam is just kind of, so I think Steam wants their own thing in the end, which would be great, because then you launch Steam on your desktop, but then at the same time you can continue playing from your PC on your other, you know, it's a bit like what Nintendo did with the Switch, where you kind of dock it out and you keep playing on this other thing. So yeah, for me that would be the next step. But if it would be another VR headset, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's just that, yeah, after Half-Life Alyx, it's kind of like, well, what are you gonna do? Because I don't think a lot of developers are gonna step in and be like, oh, we're gonna build games again. I mean, even with Half-Life Alyx back then, developers were like, okay, let's just kind of wait, hold out, and see what happens, because the Quest was already around, and you could see that most developers were like, oh, okay, so this was nice, but we don't see this going on for a while. You know, you can't build an ecosystem on just one, on the best game ever made, the best VR game ever made. It proved that you can't, and you know, you need to keep making more, which is kind of mind blowing, because after Half-Life, like what else is there? I don't know.
See, thinking back to the hardware as well, and they were just saying in chat that Valve, you can still buy an Index still to this day. They've not discontinued it, and when I think about it, they didn't discontinue the Steam Link boxes that they had until they had the Steam Link app on
the app,
other
Smart
people's
TV,
boxes or your phone and things like that. So I don't. Maybe that is a good point that Jet makes up, in the sense that they are still going, they are still working on it, and maybe once it disappears, it starts disappearing, it's because we are going to have a replacement. But I don't. You see, Southpaw says the next major leap is just full body tracking, because I want to lean over in VR and it not look like complete jank,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a thing. I get
Yeah.
that. I don't think that's the next leap, though. Because the thing for me, the thing that breaks immersion, you can get vibrating taxi and all the other, and you can do body trackers. Pico do these wonderful little trackers for your feet and arms and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that they need to crack to truly immerse us is when I grab a thing in VR and my eyes tell me my hand is holding a ball. My hand needs to tell me I'm holding a ball. That's the thing that we need to crack. And all of the things we've seen at the minute have been like giant exoskeletons with pulleys on that stop your hand from closing any further, which simulates the restriction of holding a thing, but the inside of your hand still says, I've got fresh air in here. And so I don't think that's the answer to that problem. I think the next truly massive leap in VR is essentially going to be hacking our brains. So then the headset tells my brain my hand is holding a ball, and my hand says, yeah, no, there's totally a ball in there. I think that's the next thing, is the neural linking between the two. That's going to be the
Steam
next
link.
thing. Exactly. I know that Gaben is kind of all in on that.
Like controlling your brain.
A little bit. Yeah, like hacking the body. That's the next step. That's the next. Everything else is just going to be an iteration and a gimmick on top of what we have. And I think that's the next true wow moment for VR.
Yeah. I don't know. I just
So
like
until
I don't know. Like I can't really make predictions on what Valve is doing, because like if you also watch the recent Half-Life documentary, these guys sometimes build things that are amazing, and like I don't know, let's just not bother any further and build the next thing.
Yeah.
So maybe they already built like 5 things they could only dream of, but they are like, okay, let's just try another thing.
Can I say
So
if
yeah,
if it's about making money, Valve, they know fine well they could put Half-Life 3 out and it would make them millions, but they don't, because, like you said, they're not about that sort of thing.
No.
yeah. Keeps the lights on for Valve. Like, Valve would never have to do another thing because Steam exists.
Well, yeah, to a certain degree, yeah. I mean, you've seen like other platforms like Epic Games, and they all try to compete with them with like the same amounts of money, but it's just that I'm not focused on what Valve is going to put out for the XR scene necessarily, because when it comes out, I'm sure it's going to be amazing, but they're not in the race. They'll just kind of tap in whenever, and maybe they tap out. Maybe the next thing is going to be something completely different. It's going to be another like alien machine again to do it again, or they make another game. It's like, oh, we just made Orange Box 4. And they're like, but we thought you were making hardware. Yeah, we just stopped and decided to just make Team Fortress 4, 5, 6, and I don't know what else they're doing. As long as Steam exists, as long as the store is great, as long as I can play my games there with just a click of a button, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
And the rest that will be added to that is a plus. But I definitely think a company should step in, because when PlayStation VR 2 is really starting to get to the point where like, okay, no one is really paying attention to this platform anymore, and Meta heads into, I mean, maybe the free-to-play thing is just a phase. Maybe Horizon is just a phase. But let's say it does succeed to the point they're happy with it, or they move on to AI glasses, or then if you were really invested into gaming, then where are you going to go? Is the question. I don't know. I really don't know. As I said, I don't really play that much VR games on that level anymore, and I don't have that same passion as I used to. So I would find it sad if it goes away, or at least on the level we used to see, where someone is actually caring about getting there. But I just have so many other headsets and devices now that showed me that there is more than just. It's just most people don't have access to that.
Mhm.
You know, if you have a Quest,
Yeah.
you don't have access to that Disney Plus experience. You don't have access to that Kung Fu Panda thing. Even that they're just tech demos,
Mhm.
it just shows like, wait, my headset can do way more. And then there is suddenly a demand for people saying, hey, I don't want to play a game. I just want to, I don't want to sit on my couch. I want to watch Disney Plus or Netflix. And why is there no app for that? If
Mhm.
there is, and then suddenly when they make the app and they're like, whoa, we have never seen people spend so long in the headset. And they even buy like virtual environments because they want to, be in. I mean, there are sure ways to you can make money.
Mhm.
I don't know, but that's just me. But yeah, gaming, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just a lull, as you said, or maybe it's
Mm.
the final lull. I don't know.
Hopefully it
uh,
isn't, but like you say,
it's just like if we don't enjoy for example, the Alien game that came out anymore, then who does?
Mhm.
Right?
sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
We're sat here saying Sony are abandoning headsets and this, that, and the other. And I was thinking, didn't they show another one at CES? And I'm just having a quick Google into it, but it seems to be a lot more aimed at like
Yeah.
CGI in movies and
Mhm.
stuff. It's
Yeah.
Oh,
not
you mean the one with the finger controller?
Mhm.
the XYN is
Yeah.
what
But
this woman's on
that's
stage talking about.
yeah. I've seen someone use it. It's for like for enterprise, so
Mhm.
building
Yeah.
cars, stuff like that. I saw someone because people are like, why does it have this weird controller that wraps around your finger? It's like a ring. And then I
Mhm.
saw someone use it in like where they build a new car for production, and then this person was in VR showing it, and then it made total sense because they could move with the thumbstick around the car and look at it and zoom
Mhm.
in. That was it. It's kind of like it's almost like going back in time, but giving something that is very simple.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I said, like, that's why I think a 3DOF headset is still something that could be pulled off. I mean, the X-Real glass is also 3DOF, right? As far as I'm aware. You can't be like, oh,
I
here's my
think
screen, and then walk to the other side of your room and it's still there.
I think the ones might be 6, but yeah, it is, and it is absolutely awesome. The use case, I didn't think I would use them that much. My first use case was I'm gonna take a flight, and I kind of want to use them on a flight.
Yeah.
But then ever since I got them, I find I use them pretty much daily.
It's because they made hardware going to the basics, leaving a lot of stuff behind that is amazing for the eyeballs and great for many things, but it has no mainstream appeal. And that's what
Yeah.
this thing does. It just goes back to the basics. It's not like with my Vision Pro, I'm in GeForce now, but in the end, I'm always sitting on the couch. So yeah, of course, if I grab a drink from the fridge, I don't want the screen to be stuck to my face.
Mhm.
But if you could just have me click on the side of the glasses and it disappears for a moment, walk to my fridge and then go back and click on it and the screen is in front of me again, fine. It's the most basic, cheap thing that looks ugly AF, but it works and people want
Yeah.
that, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think people should just go for cheaper stuff, cheaper headsets.
I can remember watching
Like I would buy a Netflix headset. I would buy,
Mhm. I remember watching a video when the Vision Pro first came out. Someone walking around in London using one, and they said, "Look, I can be stood next to a London Eye and watching this massive YouTube video." But then they just walked off, and they were like,
yeah,
"Oh, it's all the way back there." Still, it didn't follow. They were confused that I didn't follow them. They were like, "Oh,
yeah.
I have to go and get my YouTube window from all the way back over there."
Yeah. But it sticks. It shows that it can stick very well. Like I could put a screen somewhere far away, walk away, and it's still there in the
Mhm.
distance. You can see it.
Yeah.
But that's great, and it shows how powerful the device is and how smart it is. But in the end, you pay a lot of like money for for just doing that,
Mhm.
and if
Yeah.
you strip that away, it could still work. It's like when people put on the glass, they are going to be mind blown too, where it's like, oh, there's a screen in front of my eyes now and I can play video games, which is fine. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of, when I started out with all of this, I was like, wow, I really want, yeah, things to advance to the point. It's like, oh, we need eye tracking, we need this, and we need that. And now when I use certain headsets that I really care about, it's because they have a much simpler premise to it,
Mm.
which just makes it easier to understand. No fluff, no. And I think, yeah, pricing, that's the thing. That's the key here, you know. So and you
Definitely.
guys know that for, if you spend just a few $100, you get a very basic headset.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you can
it
make it
is.
even
It
cheaper. I
is
mean,
more than
look at the
enough.
Quest. The Quest 3S is already really cheap, but it does too much for things you're never gonna do with it. You know, there's certain things like,
Yeah.
okay, so let's say you strip like 50% off that again. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Meta is gonna do that. Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, the moment they put screens in the Ray-Bans,
Yeah,
that's going to be the thing for
yeah.
Meta, I think, and they'll go big time into that.
Well, the Ray-Bans are selling really well. I don't know how. I think they sell better than Quest, right? Do they? I don't know.
I never look into the numbers because I never truly trust them.
Yeah.
But I know that they did recently have a big, financial based conference Meta, and they tell the shareholders
But
this,
they're
that, and the other.
everywhere. Like in every
But
store, I see them. You know,
yeah.
with Quest, it's kind of. I live in a small town. I don't see a Quest anywhere, but the Ray-Bans are at every place, glasses place where you can. You know, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that is accurate. I'm thinking like my local, I say local, the shopping mall thing that we have nearby. I walked in through the door. There's Sunglasses Hut over there, Ray-Ban Meta. There's a literal Ray-Ban Meta, kiosk right in front of me. There's loads of places I could see that, and if I was lucky, I went into one of the game shops, and there was an advert for a Quest on a wall or something like that. Like there was just no fanfare or anything in
Yeah, but
the UK.
even with, it's funny that even with those glasses, that like when I used them, I was like, I'm gonna record a lot of videos with this. And in the end, I didn't. At the start, I did. But then at some point, because it becomes like, first you're like, okay, it's new, so I'm trying it. And then at some point, I ended up not doing it at all. But the thing I always used it was like, okay, I can listen to music and then talk to people.
Yep.
That's what I did.
That's
Of
it.
course, there are people out there who do use it to record video with. I don't know if they just do it because it's like, oh, I just put it on, let me make a video again so people can see how fancy my glasses are. But for me, the only use case that was left was just, and then I was like, okay, but then I don't need Ray-Ban glasses. And then I found like Bose and some other companies who are focused on just audio, which were much cheaper, which just didn't have the other stuff. You see what I mean? So sometimes you don't need everything.
Yeah,
I mean, the AI thing could be interesting. But on the other side, do I? I mean, I have ChatGPT on my phone for most of the stuff, and it's just not good enough yet to be scanning everything, and I don't want to wear them all the time. So you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like you can go a step back, just give me the first step first, and then we'll see where we go from there, instead of trying to do. But then you walk around with your Ray-Ban glasses, you paid maybe 50 or 100 euros for just the cameras, which you never use. So I'm like, just give me the audio, and the rest I don't want anymore.
I found an interesting use case in the sense of me and Buck will be chatting to each other, and then most of the time, because I can't be bothered to get a decent pair of headphones, so I'll chuck them on as a Bluetooth headset, like you said, just using them to chat to people. But then it is a great feature that you can literally just connect it and be like, look what I'm doing, and then on WhatsApp you can have a video call where they can see through your eyes, and you don't have to be holding a phone. So that's a great use case for them. Quite a good chunk of my Meta Connect was, I did recordings in the glasses, which I quite liked. But then, like you say, the biggest use case I have for them so far is I'll just be doing like housework or something, and I'll just be using them as headphones. But somebody like it's the off-ear headphones. It's one of the things I love about the Crystal. Going back, I packed the index away, and the Crystal's got off-ear audio again. I was like, oh, I forgot how much I missed this. because the amount of people that have tried it since and tried to shoehorn it onto quests and things, and it doesn't work. They are absolutely fantastic. So that was something that I use them for, so then people can talk to me without me having earbuds in and out. That's the only other thing that I sort of use them for. I am conscious of time. Sadly, 2 hours is kind of already. We did have one question. We usually take questions at the end of the show from the chat. We did get one. What's the one thing that you're looking forward to most this year in gaming or in VR in general?
Yeah, good question. Maybe someone else
For
goes
me-
first.
Yeah, for me, it's. I mean, aside from what Palmer's giving me some copium. I'm kind of latching onto that and hoping that he's going to tell me something new. But gaming wise, you see, I meant to tag on this earlier. I think Fast Travel Games are doing it right in that their new VR game, the Claymation game, which looks absolutely stunning, but it's hybrid. And I've got no problem with studios kind of pivoting to hybrid as long as the VR is not a tacked on afterthought. I think hybrid might be the way that VR endures for a while. I'm really looking forward to that as the next thing. And Palmer Lucky coming out and being like, "Behold your new headset! It's super lightweight. It's like the big screen, but it's also functions like a Quest." That's what I want from the future times. So maybe he'll give it to us. We don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think mine's Midnight Walk. And then seeing what to do with the Wanderer, because it was a fantastic game in the first place. So
yeah,
seeing an update, but there's nothing else really screams at me this year.
Yeah, no, Wanderer as well. I think it's a great game. I think hopefully.
Fragments is hopefully going to be, because wasn't that scheduled for February 24 at one point?
Yeah.
But then between COVID, small studio, things like that, it got delayed.
They did August and then September, and then said, "We're not going to give you a new date because we're just giving you all these dates and not hitting them."
No, I'm just like, I think that game is going to be great, but again, it's not going to sell so well.
No.
Which is a shame.
They announced that. I was playing through the original. I was playing through the game, and then they announced that. I was like, okay, I'm going to stop because I want to pick it up on the better version.
Yeah.
And I probably could have carried on, played it, finished it, and forgotten about it before it actually comes out. But then they also said that the sequel isn't far behind it either. So that's kind of cool.
I rarely see devs doing remasters in this scene. So I mean, I appreciate it. I think it's great. But it's almost like it's taking so long now that it sounds like a passion project that hopefully doesn't put the whole studio on fire once it comes out and it doesn't sell. It's that I don't know.
I hope it's kind of like Vertigo, in that they're making the second game and they were like, do you know what? We could quite easily just whip this over to the first one. So let's do that, and then we can get a little bit more life out of it, like Arizona Sunshine. There wasn't a great deal of different stuff in the remake, but it still kind of felt fresh and new playing it a second time. I was like, yeah, no, this is totally fine.
I think it's totally welcome. It's just like how many people buy it is the question.
Yeah.
That's the no, but I'm totally on the train of like Wanderer, and in terms of hardware, I think this year is not really about hardware necessarily. I don't really expect. I mean, if you looked at CES already, there was not much going on. I mean, you have the Play for Dream headset, which is this. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what it wants to be right now. I thought it was going to be a competitor to the Apple Vision in a way, but now they're constantly talking about how many games you can play on it and this and that. So I don't know where that stands. And Meta is not going to launch another Quest right now. It's not going to happen. So there, like hardware-wise, not much. I mean, of course, if you look at the platforms, they're struggling, so it doesn't need to be about the hardware, anyways, right now. But But hopefully some nice games come out for sure. Like at the end of like this year, like around Christmas, at least we get like another like 2-3 games again. If that's if that's a Metro-esque game, if that's and if they don't sell well or not, I do think they need to kind of keep them around for the audience who's still there, because otherwise, let's just hope VR succeeds again. That's kind of what I'm hoping for to see this year. VR, not like, because right now VR tells me that it's kind of out of the loop, and we're just moving to mixed reality, and VR is more as a nice little bonus. But we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out.
Awesome. Nathie, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here with us, chatting. It's been amazing. Is there anything you want to shout out? Anything? Tell people where they can find you. We'll have all your links and things below anyway. But anything you want to get out there before we go?
No, I think this has been a great convo. I think what I like about these kinds of like shows that you guys do is like you just talk about things and then it just goes somewhere. As you said, like you opened it and before you knew, we were talking about AI and robots and I don't know. And it's just nice.
That's awesome.
That was always a vision for it. It's just more like a conversation and we're gonna have a set point of list we want to talk about. It just goes where it goes for the 2 hours.
I don't know. I always had like when we did VRverse, I always had Zim telling me that I had to stop talking about a certain subject and move on to the next.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, the chair is always open for you. Anytime you want to hop back in, you just give us a shout and we will definitely make that happen. Cool. It has been an absolute joy.
Appreciate it. Thank you.